I never thought the words "we need to talk" could so cruelly split life into before and after. We had been together for 15 years, and every day I was sure our family was forever. He was my first and only love, my best friend, husband, and support. But one day, everything changed. Initially, I overlooked the small changes: late nights at work, passwords on his phone, frequent business trips that never existed before. I justified his busyness as work-related stress and fatigue. Soon, however, I felt a growing coldness and indifference, as if a wall had grown between us. Suspicions gradually crept in, especially after I caught a glimpse of a message on his phone screen from an unknown number saying, "Waiting for you." My heart skipped, but I convinced myself it was merely a coincidence. The real blow came when he forgot to close his laptop, and I accidentally saw messages that shattered my heart. All the pain and fear I'd long suppressed exploded simultaneously. The messages were filled with love, affection, and future plans that sickened me. That evening, I confronted him at the doorstep with a question I already knew the answer to. Who is she? Without denial, he calmly responded, "I'm sorry, but I love someone else." Pain and humiliation overwhelmed me as he silently packed his things and left without even looking back. Soon I learned who the new woman was. A young woman barely older than our daughter, ambitious, beautiful, and utterly indifferent to the consequences of breaking up a family. She was everything I wasn't: carefree, vibrant, living only for the moment. I tried to hate her, but hatred didn't ease my pain. I understood that she hadn't forced his decision. It was entirely his. Left alone, I struggled to recover. Days and nights blended into an endless cycle of pain and regret. I blamed myself, searching for flaws that might have pushed him away until realizing it was never about me. Friends urged me to move on, to forget him, but that felt impossible. He left behind an emptiness nothing could fill. A month later, I received a message from our mutual friend. "Have you heard your ex lost everything?" It turned out his new life quickly fell apart. He had invested nearly all our savings in a business with his new girlfriend, who betrayed him, fled with his money, leaving him broke and in debt. I felt a strange relief mixed with pity. It was as though fate itself had punished him for the pain he caused me. I thought that chapter had ended, that I'd never see him again, and almost accepted how my life had turned out. But one night late in the evening, someone knocked on my door. Opening it, I saw him, thin, worn out, almost unrecognizable. "I have nowhere else to go," he whispered, eyes downcast. "Please, forgive me." Standing at the crossroads, I realized the past and present had collided at my doorstep. I didn't know whether to forgive him or shut the door forever. Then he raised his eyes, and what I saw in them changed everything. The man standing before me wasn't the confident person I'd known. He was a broken stranger desperately seeking shelter. Seeing him at my doorstep was surreal. He had aged years in just weeks. His clothes hung loosely, and dark circles marked his weary eyes. My initial anger faded slightly into confusion and pity. "Please, just one night," he murmured, sensing my hesitation. "I promise I'll leave tomorrow." Against my better judgment, I let him inside, though every instinct screamed otherwise. We sat silently at the kitchen table, the silence heavy with unsaid words. Eventually, I asked the question burning inside me. "What happened?" He looked down, avoiding eye contact. "I trusted her, but she betrayed me, took everything and left. I was a fool." I felt no satisfaction, only sadness. His voice shook as he continued. "I realize now how much I hurt you. I've lost everything, including you." Though my heart softened, I reminded myself of the pain he'd caused. Part of me wanted to comfort him, yet I couldn't forget how he had coldly discarded our marriage. "You can't just walk back in and erase everything," I said gently but firmly. He nodded, understanding the boundary I'd set, yet his eyes held a pleading look that tugged at memories of happier times. The next morning, I awoke early and found him asleep on the couch, clutching our family photo. My heart tightened. As I moved quietly through the house, I noticed his phone buzzing silently. The screen displayed a message from the woman who had destroyed his life. "Come back. I made a mistake. We can fix this." My chest tightened painfully. Was he really here because of remorse, or was I just a convenient refuge? When he woke up, I confronted him. "Is she asking you back?" He looked away, guilt written across his face. "She realized she needs me, but it's too late. I know what's important now." I wanted desperately to believe him, but doubts lingered. Trust, once shattered, doesn't easily mend. The following days were tense. He made efforts to help around the house, seeking forgiveness through gestures and small kindnesses, but the message haunted me. Every gesture felt suspicious, every word carefully measured. One evening, I overheard him on the phone, his voice quiet and strained. "No, I can't do this anymore. I've already lost enough." Hope stirred within me, yet suspicion refused to let go. Just as I began to consider forgiveness, another unexpected knock came at the door, bringing chaos back into my life. My heart nearly stopped as I opened the door, only to find myself staring into the eyes of the woman who had ruined my marriage. Standing there, radiating confidence and an unsettling arrogance, was the young woman who had taken my husband away. Her presence filled me with anger and confusion. "We need to talk," she stated bluntly, not waiting for an invitation as she stepped inside. I stood frozen, uncertain how to react. My ex-husband appeared from the living room, visibly stunned by her sudden appearance. "What are you doing here?" he demanded, anger rising in his voice. She smirked, completely unfazed. "I'm here to take you home. You've had your fun playing victim. It's time to stop this nonsense." My shock quickly turned into anger. "You have no right to come here, let alone talk like that." Ignoring me, she addressed him again. "You've lost enough, but if you come back now, I promise I'll fix everything. Think clearly. You're smarter than this." His silence terrified me. I watched as he struggled internally, visibly torn between the woman who had destroyed his life and the chance at redemption. Finally, he spoke firmly. "I'm not going back. It's over. You've shown me who you truly are. I'm done." She scoffed, clearly irritated. "You'll regret this." As she stormed out, slamming the door behind her, silence once again filled the room. After she left, I looked at him cautiously. "Did you mean that?" He nodded, sincerity clear in his weary eyes. "Every word. I can't lose you twice. I've made terrible mistakes, but this is where I belong." For the first time since his return, I genuinely believed his words. Over the next weeks, we took cautious steps toward rebuilding trust. Small gestures became meaningful. Shared dinners, honest conversations, and glimpses of the person I'd once deeply loved. But despite the progress, a part of me remained guarded, wary of repeating past mistakes. One evening, as I sorted through the mail, an envelope caught my eye. The handwriting was unfamiliar, but as I opened it, my pulse quickened. Inside were photos and documents revealing secrets that sent chills down my spine. The woman who had destroyed our marriage wasn't finished yet. She had one last card to play, one that threatened everything we had started to rebuild. My hands trembled as I read the attached note. "He hasn't told you everything. If you want the truth, meet me tomorrow." My heart pounded as I approached the cafe where my rival awaited, ready to reveal secrets that could shatter my life once more. I hesitated at the cafe entrance, my stomach churning with dread. Gathering my courage, I stepped inside and immediately saw her waiting, calm and composed, sipping her coffee as though she hadn't a care in the world. She smiled coldly as I sat down. "I wasn't sure you'd come. What do you want?" I asked sharply. "To tell you the truth, the full truth." Her tone was strangely serious, different from her usual arrogance. Curiosity mixed with anxiety kept me silent, urging her to continue. She slid a folder toward me. Hesitantly, I opened it, my eyes scanning documents filled with financial transactions, messages, and detailed plans. My heart sank with each word I read. "He wasn't the innocent victim he portrayed himself to be," she began. "It was his idea to leave you. He planned everything, including the story about me betraying him. Shock and disbelief gripped me. Why would he do that? Money, freedom, a new start. He needed sympathy from everyone, especially you, to rebuild himself after his business failures. And you gave him exactly that. I felt numb. Everything we'd rebuilt together was based on lies. All the kindness, every tender gesture felt tainted now. Why tell me this now? I demanded weakly. She sighed, suddenly looking vulnerable. Because he double-crossed me too. He used us both. I don't like being played, and neither should you. Returning home felt impossible, but I had to confront him. As I walked in, he greeted me warmly, unaware that everything had changed. "What's wrong?" he asked, sensing my distress. I threw the folder onto the table. "Explain this." His expression quickly shifted from confusion to panic as he recognized the contents. "It's not what you think," he stammered. "Then tell me exactly what it is," I snapped, anger rising. Defeated, he finally confessed. "At first, yes, I planned everything. I was desperate. But everything changed when I came back. I saw clearly what I'd lost, how much I hurt you. I fell back in love with you for real. This time, no lies. His words sounded sincere, yet trust was utterly destroyed. Tears streamed down my face, feeling betrayed again, deeper than before. How can I ever believe you now? He reached out, desperate. Please give me one last chance to prove myself. My mind raced with conflicting emotions. Part of me still loved him deeply, desperately wanting to believe him. Yet another part was screaming to run to protect myself from further pain. I need time, I whispered, stepping away from him. Before he could reply, the doorbell rang, interrupting our painful confrontation. As I opened the door, the face waiting there made my heart skip. This visitor held the final piece to a puzzle I wasn't prepared to solve. Standing at my doorstep was someone I never expected to see again, someone who would finally help me find justice. I stared in shock at my former husband's best friend, Michael, whom we hadn't seen since the divorce. His serious expression hinted at something urgent. "We need to talk. It's important," he said, glancing behind me cautiously. I stepped outside, closing the door softly, my heart racing with anticipation. Michael began speaking immediately. "I knew something was off when he left you. I've been quietly gathering information ever since. I found evidence that your ex and his girlfriend planned everything from the start. They intended to exploit your generosity, leaving you with nothing." He handed me another envelope containing detailed proof, emails, recorded conversations, evidence of betrayal deeper than I'd imagined. "Why are you showing me this?" I asked, struggling to comprehend the depth of deception. "Because you deserve the truth, and he deserves to face the consequences." Anger surged within me, replacing hurt with clarity. Together, we devised a plan to reveal my ex-husband's deception publicly, ensuring he'd never deceive anyone again. That evening, I confronted him one final time. "You asked for another chance, but you're incapable of honesty. I know everything." He paled visibly, understanding immediately what I meant. Days later, at a gathering of friends and family he'd insisted on hosting to demonstrate our reconciliation, I took the floor. "I'd like to make an announcement," I began, holding the evidence firmly in hand. "But first, the truth." As I revealed his deception piece by piece, faces turned from disbelief to shock. He stood frozen, unable to deny the undeniable evidence presented publicly. Finally, humiliation replaced his arrogance. The room erupted with disbelief and anger. He tried to defend himself, but no one listened. Friends who had stood by him turned away in disgust. The carefully constructed image he'd rebuilt crumbled before everyone's eyes. As he stood there, defeated and exposed, he finally faced the reality he'd so carefully avoided. Returning home alone, a sense of peace enveloped me. Retribution had not brought joy, but it delivered justice, restoring my dignity and self-worth. The next morning, as sunlight streamed through my window, I understood clearly that my happiness would never again depend on someone else's actions. This chapter was finally closed. Just when I believed it was truly over, a single message appeared on my phone, hinting that fate might still have another surprise in store.